Hello all and welcome to the Fintech Finance Virtual Arena. Today we're going to be talking about innovation in payments infrastructure and how that's enabling fintechs to innovate even further. And joining me, I have two experts in the field. I have John Cavebring from HIPS and Nicky Griffiths from MYHSM. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. To kick things off, I kind of want to get you guys to introduce yourselves. So first of all, John, could you give our audience a bit of background to HIPS, please?
Yes, so HIPS is a payment platform in the cloud. We offer the payment technology and the compliance around that to any company that wants to add payment services to their offering, rather if it's online, mobile, or POS devices in store. So the background of HIPS is from my previous experience. I started a company called Sanport Payment Services 20 years ago, which merged together with Euroline and became Bambora, which is known for today. And we want to build something like AVS for payments in the cloud. So that's kind of HIPS.
Brilliant. And I mean, that's going to be so important for this discussion when we talk about that ever-evolving payments innovation. So thank you for joining us, John. And also, Nicky Griffiths from MYHSM. Nicky, thank you for coming on the show today. Can you tell us a bit more about MYHSM and your role there, please?
Yeah, hi Doug. My name's Nicky Griffiths. I'm an account executive at MYHSM, and we are a global provider of payment HSMs as a service. And I'm looking forward to telling you all about that today.
Absolutely brilliant. Now, I've got to ask, from my notes, I can see that MYHSM and HIPS have actually come to work together. So, John, could I get your perspective on this partnership and what it means for HIPS, please?
Yeah, so HIPS, as I mentioned, we are a cloud provider, and for us it's important to also use cloud services. We are a team that are spread around the world. We don't want to be working out of a single location in terms of where we host the hardware. So trying to find an HSM to complement our AVS cloud solution we have today was the reason where we came in contact with MYHSM the first time. And there are a lot not a lot, but there are HSM solutions out there, but not payment HSM solutions. So MYHSM is the only payment HSM solution that could, that we actually could find, to be honest. And that's how we came in contact with them, and we are working with them for years now, and yeah, it's fantastic. It's been a fantastic journey.
Absolutely brilliant. And Nicky, could I also hear from MYHSM what you can do at MYHSM for HIPS and other payment companies like them?
Yeah, so we are a global provider, as I said, of payment HSMs as a service. We provide a fully managed PCI PIN and PCI DSS compliance service under a simple monthly subscription fee. So we offer a test service, a shared live, and a dedicated service. Our test service allows customers to securely and inexpensively develop and test their application using the latest payment HSMs, and without that need to purchase expensive hardware, and the secure facilities and those associated costs that go with that. So we can help provide that speed to market and help adopt that multi-cloud strategy. We also take care of the management, the monitoring, and the system maintenance, which can be done via our online portal, which also allows our customers to monitor their data usage, track their performance stats, and also check their latency status. So basically, it is like owning your own payment HSMs, just that string is a little bit longer, and we take away that responsibility from the customer by providing a secure, scalable, hosted payment solution.
Well, I think that is critical for a lot of, as I mentioned in the introduction, a lot of fintechs to be able to not have to worry about that and actually go on and, as you said, John, as well, do the things you want to do across the globe, which is becoming increasingly important for fintech. Now, I think it's fair to categorize fintechs as often solving niche and offering niche services within financial services. Innovation and agility go hand in hand with that. But that being said, there's still a lot of barriers to market, especially when you're operating globally. So, John, I've got to ask for your expertise in this area. What are the barriers you see to market that fintechs typically have to contend with that some people when they first start out might not think of?
No, I think the biggest barrier is the capital investment required for to enter the market, and there is where, or I think cloud services are fantastic, especially for startups. You know, you have all the hardware, but also the licenses that comes with normally when you have the hardware set up yourself. But with the cloud services, you can easily, for a cheap, if you will, monthly fee, get access to what the big companies are using, and that's a barrier I think is that where cloud services really help startups to come over.
Yeah, and Nikki, you've already shed some light into how cloud can solve some of those barriers. Can I also get your expertise on this as well, please?
Yeah, I think, the main barriers are probably that strict and changing industry regulations. Whilst they're critical in protecting the customer, I think they can also sometimes slow down the development and the adoption of new technologies. So, current security standards imposed by PCI, they are the same for larger organisations as they are for the smaller organisations, and the same certification process occurs. So, this can sometimes be really costly and time-consuming part of the process for the smaller businesses, and obviously requires that specific expertise. I guess businesses would need to ask themselves, do they have that expertise? Do they want to grow that expertise? And if not, then I'd say MYHSM is that perfect solution, because we can simplify this process, and make sure that fintechs don't need to cut corners in this regard, and it just enables them to focus on their core business and getting it to market quickly and effectively. So in essence, just removing those complexities.
Yeah, and that's really what I think the whole industry wants is to people to focus on the services, or as I mentioned earlier, the niche kind of problems that they solve within financial services. So Nikki, if I could stay with you just for one more question as well. When with fintechs being created in the cloud, what does this mean for their ability to innovate going forward? That now that fintechs aren't hamstrung by these legacy software systems and can operate globally.
Yeah, I think the cloud is going to enable fintechs just to innovate without any of these sort of constraints. So, it can provide that faster sort of time to market. It can also allow them to sort of focus on their valuable IT resources and developing their applications that will ultimately differentiate their business and transform that customer experience. So, not having the burden of managing that infrastructure and the data centers and those associated costs that come with that. So I think that they can leverage the customization that the cloud offers, and helps them scale more easily. The volume of financial data is explosively growing at the moment, and I think that the cloud can enable fintechs to sort of store and manage that data in a secure and trusted way. So, I think the cloud is just becoming a key sort of influencer in that digital disruption. And I just think it's an essential platform in catalyzing those innovations in the fintech sector.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, John, also, can I get your perspective on that as well, please?
No, I'm totally with Nikki here. I think the cloud is especially in the regulation part. Regulation as a service as well as hardware as a service is something that really helps new companies to start developing and move into the fintech. And we see more and more companies moving into fintech that wasn't traditionally fintech company, because it's so easy to do it with cloud services now. Before cloud, I have an example. For example, when we started a new service 10 years ago now in my previous company, and we were doing some work that required HSMs, for example. We were required to buy hardware to just do some tests, and that hardware was lying around in the office, I don't know, years after that, not being used. Yeah. And it's extremely expensive hardware. So now with the cloud server, you can launch your project, you can test your project, you can for a small fee see if it flies, and then develop from there.
That's incredible. And that's something that maybe a small enterprise, a small fintech enterprise doesn't want to be saddled with. This giant hardware, expensive hardware especially, that is just going to get in the way into the future. Now, Nikki, I'm interested on MYHSM side of things. What can you do for companies that are cloud native? They've been born in the cloud already. Yeah, what can MYHSM do for them?
Yeah, it's, as you said, it's a challenge. Hosting these secure systems like payments HSMs is a massive costly issue for fintech. So, MyHSM can remove that large initial investment and replace it with, a flexible monthly subscription-based service that scales to their business. Our test service, it allows fintechs to develop and test their payments application, whether that be on premise or in the cloud, and it can be set up in as little as 3 days, which is very, very quick. So, once they're ready and they've completed their testing phase, they can then seamlessly migrate to our live service, where they would have access to 3 payment HSMs in 2 geographically separate data centers. So providing that resilience and that 99.999% availability. So, our main aim is just to encourage the growth of the fintech industry, and just to support them in the best way we can. And that, is from their early testing phase, through to their live transaction. So, we feel we can do that by providing, this fully managed and compliant service at a very cost-effective price.
Well, I think, talking about that cost-effective price and the model that MyHSM enable, that kind of subscription basis, we're seeing that when it comes to payments in general, changing to that kind of subscription-based model, high volume, low value, and it's in mind. Then, John, I want to come to you to kind of talk about payments as a wider issue. How is payments infrastructure enabling companies like HIPS to streamline payments for businesses around the world?
Yeah, so what we're doing now is we are focusing a lot of new payment technology. We have, for example, contactless payments are really a hot topic now during the COVID situation we have. So contactless payment in general, we have the soft POS, for example, which enables more or less any Android device to become a POS terminal with contactless payments. So that is an area that we are working and developing very, very, very intensive in right now. Another payment method that also is contactless is the QR payments. QR payments where you don't need to have any proprietary app that we have seen before. More towards the way that you use any QR scanner and can pay with your domestic local payment rails that you have in your country. So that is something that we see. We also innovate a lot into blockchains and looking at that and the payments in the blockchain. So we are see how we can have the consumer protection part as a part of the blockchain that are really not available with crypto payments today. So that is something we are looking into with the merchant token, and that is also a big project that we have. So yeah, we are working on different fields here, but a lot of is happening in the payment industry right now. So It's a lot to do.
It's an industry that maybe 20 years ago would have been the kind of dead end side of innovation, and now it is the front end of fintech innovation. So I'm really interested to hear that. Thank you. And now, Nikki, I want to hear from MyHSM's perspective, being more on the hardware side of things and securing all these changes to payments infrastructure. What is MyHSM's prediction for the future, and what part will MyHSM play with all these payment innovations?
Well, I'd echo exactly what John has said. The last year has been a roller coaster for the payments industry. They've had to adapt to new challenges, haven't we all? But on a positive note, I think that COVID has actually sped up that innovation that will sort of see the contactless and the self-service payments become the norm. Right. I think that mobile payments and digital wallets will just become a preferred method of payment for consumers. So I believe businesses will need to adapt to this or risk being left behind, as these new consumer preferences are, I think, are here to stay. I think they'll also bring the biggest opportunities for growth and innovation in payments. I think fintechs will seek to meet these needs. With that becomes the increasing demands for payment HSMs, and that's where we can help. So, we can take away again that stress, that pain that fintechs face with regards to, the PCI regulations, the cash flow, that internal infrastructure and the knowledge required. So we can provide, again, that fully managed service that takes away, all of these onerous and costly time-consuming aspects. So, I think, now and sort of running a successful business, today, and into the future, I think is going to require technology infrastructure based on cloud foundations.
I think that's really going to be critical, and especially, as we've heard from John as well, talking about just how the global nature of fintech and fintech companies is only going to expand as payments become increasingly cross-border. Now, we've touched on it briefly before in the conversation, but John, when it comes to payments and rapid growth around the world, one thing that maybe might cause some stress to some consumers when they're making a payment cross-border is how can a company like HIPS maintain that level of growth around the world while also maintaining the security within the payment and still fostering innovation. So, what would you say about the kind of finding that balance between innovation and maintaining that level of security within a payment?
Yeah, the main goal that we have at HIPS is to make a platform available for any merchant or company that wants to go into this industry and still be compliant and not breaking any rules, because there are a lot of traps here. Yeah. And if we only break down to the HSM that we have been talking about here, is there are so much part just around the HSM that can be you have PCI rules that regulates only how a PIN should be transferred and encrypted and parts around that. So that's one part. And then you have all the financial regulations around the globe. You have the data protection, you have GDPR, you have, all those parts. So what we're trying to do is to offer a service that you get all this. You can go into this space without breaking the rules, and you can focus on what you are good at. So if you are a mobile phone company, or you are a small merchant selling, flowers, whatever you do, what you do and you do that best, and pays a small fee to have everything around you just working and be compliant, and that's kind of what HIPS want to do without having to invest too much capital. So that's kind of that, yeah.
That's a brilliant way to sum it up, and that's what I've really got out from both of your comments in this discussion, is really what we're seeing from this payments revolution and innovation in infrastructure is that people are now being able to focus specifically on what they were born, what their company was designed to do. Now, Nikki, following on from what John was saying then, trying to find that balance between security and innovation, I'd love to hear, how MYHSM can help maintain security while fostering innovation and organization like HIPS.
Yeah, so, as MYHSM is currently the only service provider that offers cloud-based payment HSMs. So even though I know that HIPS does have probably over 20 years of experience and knowledge with regards to operating payment HSMs, I think it was lacking in terms of the knowledge and that side, and that's why they wanted to outsource this to MYHSM. So, we've helped many customers like HIPS greatly reduce their costs, and help accelerate their pace of development by removing these complexities. So I think we've helped them focus on their customers' needs, and sort of they can concentrate on that front end part of the service that they're very good at, whilst relying on our team of experts for the back end side of things and that technical sort of burden that most fintechs want to avoid. That does include the key management side of things, the regulations, as we've mentioned previously, which are all part of the barriers to market that fintechs have to contend with. And I'm pretty sure that John would agree that, you know, we've taken all that pain away from him and made his life a lot easier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If I just can add there, it's the journey with MYHSM has been fantastic, and even though we are experts in payments, the cryptographic parts of things around the PIN and the HSM is not our core business. So again, what I said, everyone is good at what they are doing, and we are not doing HSM. So to move to a company like MYHSM felt very natural and required.
Yeah. Well, and it just echoes the whole concept of the ecosystem where, and John, you said there, everyone can focus on what their core business is. And Nick, it sounds like you at MYHSM really do enable that for HIPS and for countless others. So guys, I think that's all we have time for. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves.
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. And to all our viewers, thank you very much for watching. You can catch the rest of the series and much more over at www.fintechf.com and of course YouTube and LinkedIn. So I'll see you then. Goodbye.